Hello and good evening. Welcome to Unlocking Finance with your financial friend. My name is Ntombi, and tonight we continue with our journey through tax season as a structured financial system that you and I can actually understand, navigate, and use to our advantage. So last week we spoke about timing, and we broadened the topic about tax season and tax filing a little bit. However, tonight we are going a little bit further. We're going to be talking about something that we find quite helpful, efficient, and feels like progress, but in some cases quietly becomes a financial blind spot if not used correctly or correctly understood. And we are talking about auto assessment. Now, to be honest, the word auto sounds good, right? It sounds automatic. It means automatic, effortless, no stress, no paperwork. And in a world where everyone is busy, tired and stretched, automatic feels like a relief. However, in finance, convenience is never neutral. Convenience can either protect you or replace your attention. And that difference is what I'll be unpacking for us tonight. So now let's start simply. What is an auto assessment? An auto assessment is when SARS uses information already available to them to calculate your tax position. Like I said in the previous episode, it's basically hearsay based on the information that has been provided to them, right? So where do they get the sources of this information? They get it either from your employer, which is through your IRP5 or your IT3A, or your medical aid contributions, retirement contributions, income that you receive as interest from banks, certain investment information. So what SARS does is that they compile this and say, okay, based on what we've received, this is what your tax outcome is, or your tax position is based on the information that we received, right? It's short, it's simple, it's direct. Now, this works well for you if that's the case. Yeah? However, it might feel like this is a process and the process is over. But the thing that you need to understand, or something that I want you to understand tonight, is that an auto assessment is not your full financial history. It's SARS version of your financial snapshot, right? And sometimes snapshots are limited. They show a moment and not the full picture. So now let's go to this section of things. Imagine someone describes you using only your salary slip, your bank account, and one document from your employer, and that's it. There's no side income, no expenses, no context, no nuance. Now, if you were to think about that, would you say that's your full financial life? If your answer is no, that's exactly what your auto assessment can become if you are not careful. Now, before we go into risk, I want us to be fair. I want us to look at things like this. Understand that auto assessments were not created to harm you, right? They were created for efficiency, to reduce admin load, for faster processing and less congestion during the filing season. SARS deals with millions of taxpayers, so automation helps with speeding the process, to reduce errors that are made manually, and to simplify basic cases. So for people with one employer, no additional income, no complex deduction, auto assessment can actually be quite accurate and helpful. However, the problem comes here is that a lot of us assume that we are in the simple category when your financial life is no longer simple. And that assumption is where the errors begin. Now, I want us to pause here. Because the biggest risk in auto assessment is not the system, it's the assumption that we make. So in this case, I would say the word assume is a dangerous word when coming to auto assessment. Because at times we might find ourselves assuming that SARS has everything, or we assume that employers reported everything correctly, or no side income needs to be declared, or deductions are automatically included, or refunds are automatically correct. And these assumptions can feel safe. However, it removes that responsibility. And we know that in finance, removing responsibility often comes with missed opportunity or with errors. So to clarify this, auto assessment is not a confirmation of accuracy. It is a confirmation of available data. That's the difference. And it's a very important difference for you to understand. So now if we make it practical, even if SARS is advanced, and it is, please don't get me wrong, there are areas in your returns or in the assessments that may not fully reflect your real financial activity. For example, your side income. If you're freelancing, you're consulting, tutoring, or you are, gigging, if those are not properly declared or linked, it will not fully reflect, right? Second one, your rental income. If, for example, you're renting out property or informally or partially, this also might not be captured. Or your deductions not being submitted or linked. So certain deductible expenses or contributions may not automatically be applied. Or even timing mismatches. So your income or contributions recorded in different tax periods may not align perfectly. And also missing supporting updates. Sometimes institutions report data late or incorrectly. And here's the key point that I want you to get. If something is missing from the system, it does not disappear from your financial reality. It's still there. You just need to declare it. It disappears from your tax calculation. And so it is important for you to include that into your tax calculation. So now, if I bring it closer to home, let's say, for instance, your employer pays you correctly every month, but 1 month your overtime is not recorded. Then the system says, based on your records, everything is correct, but something's missing. Do you accept it blindly or do you question it? And that is what the auto assessment requires you to do. To not reject it, but to review it. So when you receive your auto assessment, check it first, check if the information is correct. And if not, start making changes to it or adjusting it accordingly. One of the most common mistakes during tax season is that people accept auto assessments without reviewing them. Because it feels final, right? We believe that SARS knows what they're doing. They're professionals. They do this for a living. So it should be correct, right? Because it feels official. It feels like SARS has already decided. But understand that an auto assessment is not a final judgment. It's an invitation to verify. I'll say that again. An auto assessment is not a final judgment. It's an invitation to verify. And verification is where financial control happens. So now let me break this down simply for you. Accepting without review is fast, it's convenient, but it's risky if incomplete, and it can have a passive approach to it. When you review before acceptance, you're more intentional. It might be slightly slower, but it's financially safer and allows correction. And here is what I want you to notice. The difference is not even technical skills. It's just paying attention. It's being aware. Remember I mentioned that with the tax season, I'll be approaching the awareness of things. So you don't even have to be a tax expert. You just need to be present. You need to be responsible. You need to be intentional. So now let me speak about something else. Because this is not just about tax. It's about how we as people relate to systems. Many of us have been trained, directly or indirectly, to trust systems blindly. To assume that the paperwork is always correct, to assume that authority is always complete, and that automation is always accurate. But financial maturity begs to differ. Financial maturity asks questions. And the type of questions it asks is like, is this complete or is it just convenient? So now let me speak to you as my listener right now. Not as a system, not as a process, but as your financial friend. Auto assessment is not your enemy. It's not something you should be afraid of, but it's also something that you should not ignore. It is a tool like any other tool, depending on how you use it. A calculator that is helpful, but only if you input the correct numbers. Auto assessment works well when you have one employer, when your income is simple, your deductions are straightforward, all institutions report correctly, and no additional income exists. In that case, or in those cases rather, those can be efficient, accurate, and saves time. But the moment your financial life becomes layered, you need to shift from passively accepting it to actively reviewing it. So, for instance, you have, like I said, you're freelancing, you have a business on the side, or you have another source of income that is not normally recorded. Make sure that you review that. Errors in the tax system can lead to missed refunds, incorrect balances, delayed corrections, and unnecessary stress later. But beyond money, this is something way deeper. It is the confidence. Because nothing shakes financial confidence like being uncertain about your own numbers. And uncertainty usually comes from not checking, not verifying, and not engaging. So here's my financial friend key that I'm giving to you today to unlock for this week. Auto-assessment is not a final answer. It's a first draft. Like I said, it's hearsay. It's like you're presenting a case to court and they're telling you this is the information that we have, and it is your responsibility to reconcile everything and ensure that the details that are being presented are correct. Convenience is helpful, but reviewing is essential. Financial awareness protects what automation cannot see. So next week, we're going to move into something else. We're still in the inter-tax season, but we're going to touch on, we're going to further elaborate on this tax season topic. We're going to talk about money that you already have, but could potentially not be claiming. We'll talk about the hidden value inside your tax return. Tax season is not just about compliance, it's about awareness of what belongs to you. Well, that is it from me, your financial friend. Thank you so much for joining me on Unlocking Finance with your financial friend. My name is Ntombi, and I will see you at the next one. Thank you. God bless.